And next we have Chris Manzione, who received a post-bac here in Fine Arts in 2009 and then went on to get an MFA from Mason Gross in New Jersey. In 2010, he founded the Virtual Public Art Project, a platform for public display of digital works of art. Within the past year, Chris has taken part in the Vermont Studio Center Artist Residency, Anderson Ranch Artist Residency, and the Socrates Sculpture Parks Emerging Artist Fellowship. So everyone, Christopher Manzione.
Thank you. My name's Chris Manzione. I came out of Mica, Post-Baccalaureate program in 2007. Following that, I went to Mason Gross School of the Arts in New Brunswick, New Jersey. The work I'm going to show now is the work coming straight out of grad school. I had a fairly traditional sculpture studio practice. At the time, I was interested in sort of investigating these moments of interaction between an industrial or architectural structures and the natural world and where they meet. So the wall on the left you see goes about 2.5 feet into the wall, and also just thinking about using shadow as a material. And I'm going to move kind of fast. I have a lot of slides. So coming out of grad school, I went cross-country with a friend's project. This is called the Porta Hedge. And while he did get some funding for the making of the hedge, I put this in there because our trip was really spontaneous. We didn't have anything planned. We just made it happen. And I think that doing this right out of grad school let me, I just felt like I could do more of this. I didn't need anyone to tell me, I didn't need anyone kind of reaffirming like what I was doing. I'm just going to do it, and I'm going to make it happen. So right after this, it was about a 2-month trip in the summer. I spent a month at Vermont Studio Center. I didn't make much while I was there, but I had a lot of time to just think, read, draw a little bit. And then directly after that, I spent 3 months at Anderson Ranch in Aspen, Colorado. And my time there, I spent sort of pursuing what I was doing in grad school, still developing that, and maybe experimenting in some different ways. But I felt like maybe I was repeating myself a little bit with the work I had been making in grad school. But at the same time, I felt like I was still getting somewhere. I was getting stuff done. This is concrete. This is foam. These are digital collages. And right when I left Anderson Ranch, I didn't have a studio for the first time in probably 8 or 9 years. And I moved to Boulder, Colorado, and I was working on my computer. I started doing a lot of 3D modeling, and I had a whole body of work in the computer, and I had really no way to do anything with them. I didn't have access to a 3D printer or a mill. And then I came across William Gibson's Spook Country, and he talks about GPS-placed virtual models that you can go up to with these kind of glass headset and walk up to and walk around. And he was talking about augmented reality. So I was really interested in this. I wanted to make it happen. At the time, AR looked like this. It was kind of a screen, a camera, and you were moving these like black squares around. It's kind of awkward. And you were stuck to the screen. You couldn't go out into the world and interact with these objects. So I kept pursuing and looking for a way that I could take my sculptures and do something with them. And I came across Layer. I've since moved away from Layer, but Layer is an augmented reality browser. Much of Layer looks like this. You're looking out into the world and you're seeing information about things around you. So these are spots where someone took a photo, and you click on that spot, or you walk up to that spot, and you can see the photo they took in the same place you're standing. But then I came across this. This is an architectural company in Amsterdam, and they put a 3D model of a building on site before they actually built the building. And that was for them to see the building itself, but also for the community to see what it's going to look like. So as you move around the building, your GPS location changes, so the perspective of the building changes as well. So after finding this, with some help, I started the Virtual Public Art Project. And the very first project, I took a model very similar to the sculptures I was making, and I placed it in Prospect Park in Brooklyn. So you can walk up to the sculpture, you can walk around the sculpture, and this is all being seen through the screen of your phone, like a magic window in a way. And this is getting underneath it. I'm not going to play this whole thing. I feel like I'm definitely run out of time. But if I did, you could see as I walk around, the sculpture turns and gets larger when I walk up to it as well. And this is kind of what you look like when you're doing this. So since then, we've had virtual cargo container totems placed at industrial waste sites around the world. I've worked with nonprofit Breadboard in Philadelphia. The first show is at Design Philadelphia. I worked with 7 artists who don't work in this way at all, translated their physical work into the virtual world, and then placed it throughout the city. Along with that, we had an in-gallery show showing different examples of AR. So on the phone, using a tag, on a screen, holding this building, and this kind of turntable that turns this like chunk of land on the projection. Still working with Breadboard. Right after that, for the Philadelphia International Fine Arts Festival, we had a call for work. I worked with 23 different artists. There was 35 locations around Philadelphia, and it was wonderful. We had a great response back from this show. So up until now, I think I've worked with 75 different artists. There's about 90 different locations around the world, and it's still growing. So this is going back right when I first started the VPAP. I got Socrates Sculpture Park Emerging Artist Fellowship, creating a very similar sculpture as before. This one had tags on it that would load these blue crystals when you went up to it. And at the time I was in Brooklyn, I was doing some fabrication for artists, and I had an opportunity to be an artist in resident at William Patterson University, where I did my undergrad. And this was great. I had taken 2 of my sculptures on the computer and translated them using a CNC mill into physical foam parts. This show was at DCCA in Delaware, in Wilmington. And these pieces were made for each other. They're up in Harlem at the moment. And this paint, it's color shifting auto paint. And this is the final pieces installed. And lastly, I went to Scout in the summer. I had an incredibly wonderful, intense time, and I felt like I left with a family of artists and a community of people. And in my time there, I did things from compositing sculptures into photos. I curated a small group show, collaborated with some other artists, and I did a performance, which for me was almost territory never to touch. And this was at Socrates Sculpture Park in late September. Yeah. So just becoming this reflective sculpture that I can kind of manipulate the form with my body. Great. Thank you.